Hi, we meet again. Here we are on Unit 3, Lesson 1. In this unit, we focus on analysis, analytical issues, analysis and intelligence products, the competencies and training required of analysts, and we end with two wonderful quotations from strategic leaders who were also decision makers. We already covered what analysis is, but let me repeat it. It is a cognitive process of evaluating information about situations, people, and entities that have strategic, operational, and tactical importance. Analysis characterizes the known and the future actions by and in those situations. It accomplishes this through appropriate statements of estimation, not definite predictions. Remember that. The result of analysis is the production and dissemination of short or long-term reports known as intelligence products. Long-term reports are also known as predictive intelligence. Here, as a reminder, are the components of analysis. I am not going to repeat them because we saw them in Lesson 1, 1A. Value-added analysis and intelligence products must address the context of a security problem of evolution of a critical situation. They cannot be just because. They must be tailored to the needs of policymakers, and they require that the policymakers be clear to the managers as to the requirements for that analysis. They require a specificity of requirements from manager to the analyst, and these requirements must be at the national, region, and local level. But most important of all, analysis must add value to intelligence products. It does this by providing a unbiased perspective of information being analyzed. And this perspective, again and again, is an estimation, not a prediction. Value-added analysis requires objectivity, timeliness, and relevance. Focus particularly on objectivity. It establishes priorities from the highest to the lowest, and is collected against requirements and priorities. It must be analyzed and exploited against requirements and priorities, and it must communicate intelligence to the policymaker. The policymaker is the customer, and he or she needs intelligence, not information. The different analysis methods, such as human, image, SIGINT, or OSINT, require the use of diverse methods to create opportunity for context definition and refinement, and pinpoint interconnections among interrelated issues. No issue of national security and no threat is totally independent from other issues. For example, terrorism is related to weapons of mass destruction, and terrorism and organized crime are related topics. They go hand in hand. Now, I know there is the question, when does a terrorist become a criminal? When does a criminal become a terrorist? But we are not here to split hairs. So we continue with drug trafficking also funds terrorist groups and sundry transnational criminal organizations. What are the critical issues in analysis? We have to look at competition. Is that analysis competitive or is it collaborative? The US intelligence community today operates on the basis of a need to share versus the previous stovepiping. But stovepiping still exists. There is no way of denying that. The agencies also compete for critical resources such as budgets and staff. They also compete for the highest political attention and to build and maintain clout. And the agencies wage turf wars for control over areas of expertise. Is competition positive or negative? It all depends on the level of its effect and who is affected. But worst of all, competition can lead to major failure due to hoarding or stovepiping. Most critics focus on strategic intelligence products, not the tactical products. This is the reason why at the time there was a drive to establish mission managers. They were to oversee collection and analysis. There may be some mission managers in some agencies, but this is not community-wide and is very difficult to find one. The reason is that outsources of analysis to outside contractors has obviated the creation of mission managers. And speaking of outsourcing, the US outsourced classified information to the tune of 70% of its intelligence in 2011. 19% of that 70% was dedicated to support analysis and production. At the last public count, there were 2,000 prime contractors operating in 10,000 locations, producing 50,000 reports a year under 1,500 titles. But most important of all, outsourcing means that there is no consistency in the quality of the product. Quality control is exercised by each contractor, the contracting agency, and the direct customer in each agency. Therefore, you see the quality of intelligence products running the gamut, depending on the agency, depending on the contracting manager, depending on the customer. What happens with limited information in analysis? The truth about limited information is that analysts work within the reality of little known information on topics or issues. Therefore, the analyst must fill the blanks from his own knowledge and experience. The analyst tries to remain objective under self-monitoring to avoid analysis that is shaped or colored by his or her own centric views. The major pitfalls of limited information is that limited information gives policymakers a false sense of dependability on the information being analyzed. Remember, the policymakers are the customers of intelligence. But worst of all, limited information can lead intelligence in the wrong direction. And if intelligence goes in the wrong direction, then the findings, conclusions, and recommendations are going to be not the actionable intelligence that the policymaker needs. What happens with uncertainty? Conveying uncertainty is difficult because it's difficult to communicate, particularly under pressure. And the decision maker cannot realize on the analyst's guesses or snap judgments. Therefore, to overcome uncertainty, the analyst must identify which is known and unknown, and must resolve the unknown. Resolving the unknown requires addressing the what-ifs. The analyst must give attention to resolving the issues, not just highlighting them. And the analyst must propose strategies or tactics to resolve those issues. As it says at the bottom, knowledge is knowing what you know and what you do not know. One of the major purposes of analysis is the disclosure and communication of indicators and warnings. Indicators identify trends and possibilities based on informed estimations. Warnings based on indicators of significant events must be given to the policymaker earlier. Now, this is particularly important in the case of military intelligence. Terrorist activities require indicators and warnings based on the best estimations given the data available at the time. This is so because terrorists use minimal forces, individual operatives, small cells, and maximize operation security. The terrorist indicators and warnings require deep diving. That means thorough and deep analysis. What are the challenges that analysts face? Objectivity. The analysts are required to produce accurate and reliable assessments. Focus here on accurate and reliable assessments by making sure information is based on facts, not on impressions or assumptions based on biased or false premises. Filtering. The analyst needs to avoid integrating political or self-centric views in their analytical process. This is required so that the analyst can make recommendations free of political bias and or subjective judgments or insights. Politicizing. Analysts need to cultivate a relationship with the intelligent policymaker without politicizing their intelligence product. This is by far the most difficult challenge to building trust between the analyst and the policymaker. But despite the challenge, trust must be built and maintained. What are the challenges for managers? They focus on the caring of and feeding of the analysts. The managers must establish career paths to create a challenging working environment. They must define fair and relative criteria for promotion based on education, expertise, and the experience of the analyst. They must help the analyst increase her or her expertise and avoid intellectual stagnation. They must promote rotations of assignments while continue to develop the expertise of the analyst. And they must standardize career paths and analyst development within the USAIC. As we said, analysis produces intelligence products and reports. The intelligence products and reports are divided between current reports and long-term reports. These are called predictive or forward intelligence reports. Current reports are analysis and reporting on the move. They are the center of tactical intelligence. They are aimed to putting out fires or quick fixes. Their limitation is because they are short and lack depth, and therefore take away from strategic analysis. The long-term or predictive reports, as I said, are the center of strategic analysis. This is forward-looking analysis of trends, also known as predictive reports. They focus on the big picture, which is based on an in-depth analysis of context, interconnections, and solutions. Long-term reports are advantageous because they give the policymaker broader and deeper intelligence. Therefore, the policymaker can make better informed decisions. The most important of the briefings, which are short to the point and mostly deal with current intelligence and require direct interaction of the policymakers, is the President's Daily Briefing. This is a top secret intelligence report. It covers new international intelligence warranting attention and analysis of sensitive international situations. It is produced by the Director of National Intelligence. We saw this in Lesson 1. It fuses intelligence from the CIA, the NSA, the DIA, the FBI, and other agencies within the USAIC. The dissemination of the daily briefing is left to the President's discretion. What is required of an analyst as far as his or her training? The analyst requires analytical skills, rigor, focus, knowledge, curiosity, and above all, an unbiased mind. He is required to be able to differentiate the wheat from the chaff and be able to write clear and succinct reports. He or she must have the ability to operate within a bureaucratic structure and build and maintain political relationships. These are the relationships of trust I spoke before as far as policymakers are concerned. And he or she must have the mastery of agency's protocols and regulations. He has to know how his agency and other agencies work. The training of analysts, unfortunately, is not unified within the intelligence community because each agency has different requirements. And these requirements differ greatly between what is known as civilian intelligence and particularly so between the civilian intelligence and military intelligence. This is the expectation that General Powell had of an analyst. Tell me what you know, tell me what you don't know, and tell me what you think. And from Sherman Kent, the intellectual founder of the U.S. intelligence community, the wish for the analyst. Every intelligence analyst has three wishes: to know everything, to be believed, and to influence policy for the good, as the analyst understands what that good is. Why did we cover? We covered that analysis includes integrating and evaluating vast amounts of available data. This data is often fragmented and contradictory. Analysts are subject matter experts who absorb incoming information, evaluate it, and produce an assessment of the current state within an assigned field or substantive area to interpret indicators and identify trends or potential outcomes. Analysts are expected to include alternate scenarios in their assessments and to look for warnings about possible developments that could provide threats to or opportunities for the security and policy interests of the U.S. And most important, analysts, based on their findings, develop requirements for the collection of new information, and thus they reinitiate the analysis and intelligence product cycle over and over whenever they are involved in a new project. Thank you for attending the lecture. We will meet again in lesson 2. I hope you enjoyed your studies. Thank you.